The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council archive stretched beyond what most eyes could see. Librarian Taimin walked slowly between the towering data crystals, each one holding thousands of years of recorded history. His 6 fingers traced along the ancient storage units as he searched for the files his supervisor had requested. Mythological species classification, he muttered to himself, reading from his data pad. Section 7, subsection 12, human entries. Taimin had worked in the archives for over 30 years. He knew every section, every classification, every storage protocol, but he had never been asked to pull files on humans before. Most scholars considered them nothing more than stories told by primitive worlds to explain things they could not understand. The crystal he needed sat high on a shelf that had not been touched in decades. Dust particles danced in the artificial light as he carefully lifted it down. The weight surprised him. For something most people believed was pure fiction, there was an unusual amount of data stored here. He placed the crystal into the reading device and watched as holographic text appeared in the air before him. The first entry made him pause. Species designation, human. Last confirmed sighting, 3,247 galactic standard years ago. Status, extinct or departed. Physical description, bipedal, approximately 1.8 standard units in height, single heart, primitive internal structure. Taimin scrolled through more entries. Each one seemed stranger than the last. According to these records, humans had appeared throughout the galaxy for a brief period, then vanished completely. No other species had ever done such a thing. Combat capability assessment, he read aloud. Extreme adaptability in warfare situations. Unusual tactical creativity. Tendency to employ unconventional strategies that often resulted in victory against superior forces. He shook his head. Every species had myths about great warriors from the past. His own people told stories of the legendary Velthari, who could supposedly bend space with their minds. Pure fantasy, of course. The archive's communication system chimed softly. Taimin to Central Office. Priority request. He touched the response panel. This is Taimin. What do you need? Report to Administrator Haye-Jin immediately. Bring all human-related files. Taimin felt a chill run through his body. In 30 years, he had never received a priority request involving mythological files. Something was wrong. He gathered the crystal in several backup storage units, then made his way to the administrative section. The corridors seemed unusually busy today. Security officers moved with purpose through the halls, and he noticed that several high-ranking council members were present. This was highly unusual for a routine day at the archives. Administrator Haye-Jin waited for him in her office. Her forearms were crossed in the traditional pose of deep concern. Behind her, several screens showed star maps with red warning indicators flashing across multiple sectors. Taimin, thank you for coming quickly, she said, her voice tense. I need you to tell me everything those files contain about human combat methods. Administrator, these are mythological files. The information is not considered reliable by any academic standard. I understand that, Haye-Jin replied sharply. But I need you to tell me what the myths claim these humans could do in battle. Taimin activated his data pad and began reading. According to the collected reports, humans were described as exceptionally adaptable fighters. They apparently could learn enemy tactics quickly and develop counters within single engagements. The files mention something called berserker rage, a state where they would continue fighting despite severe injuries. What else? They were said to use weapons and strategies that other species found impossible to predict. There are reports of human forces defeating much larger armies through what the files call tactical creativity. Most scholars believe these stories were exaggerated over time. Haye-Jin moved to her main display screen. Look at this. The screen showed footage from a surveillance satellite. Taimin watched as what appeared to be a small fleet of unknown ships engaged a much larger force. The unknown vessels moved in patterns he had never seen before. They seemed to anticipate their enemies' actions before those actions were taken. This was recorded 6 hours ago in the Kepler sector, Haye-Jin explained. We have similar footage from 7 other locations. In each case, unknown forces completely destroyed Council defense fleet units. I do not understand, Administrator. What does this have to do with mythological human files? Haye-Jin paused the footage at a moment when one of the unknown ships was clearly visible. The design was unlike anything in current galactic databases. It was angular, predatory-looking, and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. 3 hours ago, we received a transmission from the sole survivor of the Delta Squadron engagement. Before his ship lost power, he managed to record this. Another screen activated. The image was grainy and filled with static, but Timon could make out shapes moving across what appeared to be a battlefield. The figures were bipedal, roughly the same height as the descriptions in his files. The survivor claimed these beings moved with perfect coordination. He said they fought like they could read their enemies' minds. Does that sound familiar, Taemin? A cold understanding began to settle in Taemin's stomach. The files do mention unusual coordination and tactical awareness. I want you to compile every piece of information we have about humans. Every story, every myth, every unconfirmed report. I do not care how unreliable the sources are. Something is happening out there, and these old stories might be the only clues we have. Taemin looked again at the star map with its flashing red warnings. Administrator, surely you do not believe that humans have actually returned. I do not know what to believe, Hyejin said quietly. But if even half of what these old stories claim is true, then the galaxy is about to face something it has never encountered before. As Taemin left the administrative office with his assignment, he could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The myths he had studied for decades might soon become terrifying reality. Commander So-young stood on the bridge of the Council defense ship Horizon, staring at the tactical display with growing confusion. 3 days had passed since the mysterious attacks began, and the reports coming in made no sense at all. Commander, incoming transmission from Admiral Kyung-ho, announced Lieutenant Dong-woo from the communication station. Put him through. The holographic image of Admiral Kyung-ho appeared before her. His usually calm expression showed signs of stress that So-young had never seen before. Commander, I am sending you new orders. The Vorthak Empire has launched a massive offensive across the Outer Rim. They have taken 7 systems in the past week. So-young felt her blood turn cold. The Vorthak Empire was the most feared military force in the galaxy. Their bioengineered warriors could tear through standard armor with their bare hands, and their weapons could crack planets in half. What are our orders, Admiral? You are to take your squadron to the Kepler sector immediately. We have lost contact with all Council forces in that area. Your mission is to investigate and report back. Understood, sir. What about the unknown ships that have been attacking our fleets? Admiral Kyung-ho paused for a moment. That situation has become more complicated. We believe there may be a connection between these mystery attackers and the Vorthak offensive. Be extremely careful, Commander. The transmission ended, leaving So-young alone with her thoughts. She had served in the Council Defense Fleet for 15 years, and had never faced anything like this situation. Lieutenant Dong-woo, set course for the Kepler sector. Maximum speed. Yes, Commander. Estimated arrival time is 18 hours. During the journey, So-young reviewed all available intelligence reports. The Vorthak Empire had been quiet for over 50 years. Their sudden return to aggressive expansion was troubling enough, but the timing with these mysterious ship attacks seemed too convenient to be coincidence. The files on the unknown attackers were thin. Survivors described ships that seemed to bend light around them, making them nearly invisible until they attacked. The few clear images showed vessels with designs that matched nothing in any galactic database. Commander, we are approaching the Kepler sector, Dong-woo announced. All stop. Begin long-range scans. The tactical officer, Lieutenant Minho, worked quickly at his station. Commander, I am picking up debris fields throughout the system. It looks like there was a major battle here. Any survivors? Negative, Commander. But I am detecting something else. There are massive energy readings coming from the third planet. So-young moved to look at Minho's display. The third planet in the Kepler system was supposed to be a dead rock with no atmosphere. According to their charts, nothing could survive on its surface. What kind of energy readings? Industrial-level power generation, Commander. The signatures suggest large-scale manufacturing operations. That is impossible. There are no colonies on that planet. The readings are definitely there, Commander. Whatever is down there is using more power than most Council worlds. So-young made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. Take us in closer. I want detailed scans of that planet. As the Horizon moved deeper into the system, more strange readings appeared on their sensors. The debris fields were not random. They showed signs of organized salvage operations. Someone was collecting the wreckage from the battles. Commander, you need to see this, Minho said urgently. The main screen showed the surface of the third planet. What they saw defied explanation. Massive structures covered the landscape. clearly artificial but built with technology that looked nothing like council architecture. Geometric patterns stretched across continents, connected by transportation networks that pulsed with energy. How long would it take to build something like that? So Young asked. With council technology, centuries at least, Minho replied. But these structures look like they were built with methods we do not understand. Commander, incoming transmission, Dongwu announced suddenly. Source unknown. Put it through. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect council standard language but with an accent none of them recognized. Council vessel, you are not authorized to be in this system. Withdraw immediately. So Young stepped forward. This is Commander So Young of the Council Defense Fleet. Identify yourself. There was a long pause before the voice responded. You may call me Jinho. You have 30 seconds to leave this system. This system is under council protection. You have no authority to order us to leave. Commander, Minho whispered urgently. I am detecting ships decloaking around us. So Young looked at the tactical display and felt her heart stop. Over 50 vessels had appeared from nowhere, surrounding the horizon completely. The ships were sleek and predatory-looking, unlike anything she had ever seen. Jinho, we are on a peaceful mission. We are investigating reports of attacks on council ships. The attacks you speak of were necessary actions against Vorthak forces. Your people were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are fighting the Vorthak Empire? We have been fighting the Vorthak for longer than your civilization has existed. Now they have returned to this galaxy, and we must stop them before they spread their poison further. So Young tried to process what she was hearing. Who are you people? Another long pause. We are the species your people call mythical. We are the ones your stories remember as legends. We are human. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stared at the communication panel as if it might provide answers to questions they were afraid to ask. That is impossible. So Young said finally. Humans are extinct. They vanished thousands of years ago. We did not vanish, Commander. We simply went where we were needed. Now we have returned because the galaxy faces a threat it cannot handle alone. Commander, Minho said quietly, the ships are moving into attack formation. Jinho, we mean no harm. We are simply trying to understand what is happening. Understanding will come in time, Commander. For now, you must leave. The Vorthak fleet will arrive in this system within hours, and you do not want to be here when that happens. So Young realized she had no choice. Her single ship was completely outnumbered, and these mysterious humans seemed to know far more about the current situation than the Council did. Very well. We will withdraw. But this conversation is not over. No, Commander. It is just beginning. Admiral Hai Jin stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, her forearms trembling slightly as she prepared to deliver news that would change everything. The great assembly hall buzzed, with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species waited for her report. The massive, holographic display behind her showed star maps with red zones spreading, like a disease across the Outer Rim territories. Each red marker represented a world that had fallen to the Vorthak Empire in just 2 weeks. Honored council members, Hyejin began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. The situation is far worse than we initially believed. She activated the display, showing footage from the latest battlefields. The images were difficult to watch. Vorthak bio-warriors, each standing 3 meters tall with natural armor plating and razor-sharp claws, moved through council defensive positions like they were cutting through paper. The Vorthak Empire has returned with forces larger than anything in our historical records. Their bioengineered soldiers show improvements that suggest they have been developing their capabilities during their long absence from galactic affairs. Counselor, Taiwan from the Xanthari Republic raised his hand. Admiral, what about our defense fleets? Surely our combined military strength can stop this invasion? Hyejin paused, knowing her next words would cause panic. In the past 14 days, we have lost 63 capital ships and over 200 smaller vessels. Our casualty reports show that council forces are being destroyed at a rate of 10 to 1. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The Vorthak had always been dangerous, but no one had expected such overwhelming superiority. There is more, Hyejin continued. Our intelligence reports suggest the Vorthak possess new weapons technology. They have developed planet-cracking missiles that can destroy entire worlds in minutes. 3 council colonies have already been completely eliminated. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of different languages, while others demanded immediate military action. He-Jin waited for the chaos to die down before continuing. However, there have been some unusual developments that may offer hope. She changed the display to show new footage, this time from the Vega sector. The images showed Vorthak fleets approaching a council world, but something strange happened during the battle. This footage was recorded 2 days ago during the Vorthak attack on New Thessia. Watch carefully. The display showed the massive Vorthak fleet moving into attack formation around the planet. Their bioships, grown rather than built, pulsed with organic energy as they prepared to begin their assault. But before they could fire their first shots, something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing from empty space around the Vorthak fleet. These new vessels moved like nothing anyone had ever seen before. They flowed through space with liquid grace, avoiding Vorthak weapons fire that should have been impossible to dodge. "Who are those ships?" asked Counselor Min-jae from the Corvani systems. "We do not know for certain," He-Jin replied, "but we have been able to establish limited communication with their commanders." The footage continued, showing the mysterious ships engaging the Vorthak fleet. What followed was unlike any space battle in recorded history. The unknown vessels seemed to predict every Vorthak move before it happened. They struck with surgical precision, disabling Vorthak bioships without destroying them completely. The battle lasted only 17 minutes, He-Jin explained. The entire Vorthak fleet was neutralized with minimal damage to the planet below. "This is impossible," declared Counselor So-jin from the Terran Archive worlds. "No known species possesses such advanced military technology." He-Jin activated another section of her display. "That brings me to the most disturbing part of my report. We believe these mysterious forces may be connected to the species we have long considered mythological." She showed the assembled council members the same ancient files that Taemin had discovered in the archives. The holographic text described beings called humans, who had supposedly possessed exactly the kind of tactical abilities they had just witnessed. "Admiral, surely you do not expect us to believe that humans have returned from extinction," said Counselor Kyung-soo from the Mineral Federation. "I am not asking you to believe anything," He-Jin replied firmly. "I am presenting facts. These unknown ships use technology we cannot identify. They fight with tactics that match descriptions from our oldest historical records, and most importantly, they seem to be actively hunting Vorthak forces." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans truly had returned, everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare and technology would need to be reconsidered. "What do they want?" asked Counselor Hye-won from the Agricultural Consortium. "We have had limited contact with their representatives," He-Jin answered. "They claim to be fighting the Vorthak to protect the galaxy from what they call an extinction-level threat. They say the Vorthak have developed biological weapons that could wipe out all organic life." "Have they offered to help Council forces?" asked Counselor Jinwoo from the Mining Guild. "Not directly. They seem to prefer operating independently. However, there is evidence that they have been secretly providing intelligence about Vorthak movements to some of our fleet commanders." He-Jin changed the display once more, showing recent battle reports from across the war zone. In every system where these mysterious ships have appeared, Vorthak forces have been completely eliminated. Meanwhile, Council casualties in those same systems have dropped to almost zero. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" asked the Council speaker. He-Jin took a deep breath. "I recommend that we attempt to establish formal diplomatic contact with these beings, whoever they are. If they truly are humans returning from their long absence, we need to understand their intentions. If they are some other species, we need to know whether they will be allies or enemies after the Vorthak threat is eliminated." "And if they refuse diplomatic contact?" asked Counselor Dong-hyun from the Trade Federation. "Then we continue fighting the Vorthak alone, and hope these mysterious allies continue to operate in our favor," He-Jin replied grimly. The speaker called for a formal vote on establishing diplomatic outreach. As the representatives cast their votes, He-Jin looked once more at the star maps showing the advancing Vorthak forces. Whether these mysterious warriors were humans or something else entirely, they represented the galaxy's best hope for survival. The vote passed unanimously. The hunt for humanity was about to begin. Captain Dongwoo crouched behind the twisted remains of what used to be a council defense bunker. Around him, the surface of Zeta Prime burned under the orange glow of plasma fires. The Vorthak Empire had arrived at this mining colony 6 hours ago, and the battle was already lost. His communication device crackled with desperate voices from the remaining Council defenders scattered across the planet. Most of the defensive positions had fallen within the first hour. The Vorthak bio-warriors moved through their lines like a plague, unstoppable and merciless. "Captain, this is Sergeant Minho," came a voice through the static. "My squad is trapped in the eastern sector. The Vorthak have us surrounded." Dongwu checked his tactical display. Red dots representing enemy forces covered most of the screen. Only a few blue dots remained, showing the last Council positions still holding out. "Sergeant, can you reach evacuation point 7? "Negative, Captain. There are too many of them between us and safety." Through his scope, Dongwu watched a group of Vorthak bio-warriors advance across the open ground. Each one stood 3 meters tall with natural armor that could stop most Council weapons. Their claws could slice through battle armor like it was made of paper, and their enhanced muscles allowed them to leap incredible distances. But what made them truly terrifying was their intelligence. These were not mindless beasts. They moved with tactical precision, using cover and coordinated attacks that showed sophisticated military training. "All units, this is Captain Dongwu. Fall back to the final defensive line. We make our stand at the communications center." As he spoke, something caught his attention in the sky above. Small objects were falling through the atmosphere, their surfaces glowing from atmospheric entry. At first, he thought they might be Vorthak drop pods bringing more reinforcements. Then he saw them land. The objects were not pods at all. They were individual figures in advanced armor that absorbed light like black holes. As they touched the ground, they immediately began moving with fluid grace that seemed impossible for beings wearing such heavy protection. "Captain, do you see this?" Sergeant Minho's voice was filled with confusion. "Unknown contacts landing throughout the combat zone." Dongwu watched through his scope as one of the armored figures approached a group of Vorthak bio-warriors. The aliens turned to engage this new threat, confident in their superior size and strength. What happened next defied everything Dongwu thought he knew about combat. The armored figure moved like liquid lightning. It flowed between the Vorthak warriors, avoiding their claws by impossibly small margins. In its hands, weapons appeared that seemed to bend light itself. Energy beams lanced out with surgical precision, dropping the bio-warriors one by one. But it was not just the advanced weapons that amazed him. It was the way the figure fought. Every movement had purpose. Every shot found its target. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation, no fear. "Captain, the unknowns are engaging Vorthak forces across all sectors," reported Lieutenant So Young from the communications center. "Enemy advance has stopped completely." More figures were dropping from the sky now. Dongwu counted at least 50 of them spread across the battlefield. Each one moved with the same deadly efficiency, carving through Vorthak positions that had seemed impossible to overcome. His radio crackled with a new voice, speaking in perfect Council standard but with an accent he could not identify. "Council forces, this is Commander Jinho. Maintain your positions and stay out of our way. We will handle the Vorthak threat." "Unknown Commander, this is Captain Dongwu of the Council Defense Corps. Identify yourself and your forces." "Captain, explanations will come later. Right now, focus on keeping your people alive while we clean up this mess." Through his scope, Dongwu watched as the mysterious warriors continued their assault on the Vorthak forces. Their tactics were unlike anything in Council military doctrine. They seemed to know exactly where each enemy would be before the Vorthak themselves knew. One warrior caught his particular attention. This figure moved through a group of 6 Vorthak bio-warriors like they were standing still. Its weapons fired in patterns that seemed random, but resulted in every shot finding a vital target. Within seconds, all 6 aliens lay motionless on the ground. "How is this possible?" whispered Sergeant Minho over the radio. "Captain, you need to see this." Lieutenant So Young's voice was filled with amazement. "The unknowns are not just fighting the ground forces. They are taking out the Vorthak fleet in orbit." Dongwu looked up at the night sky. Flashes of light marked where space battles were taking place far above the planet's surface. The Vorthak had arrived with 12 capital ships and dozens of smaller vessels. According to Council intelligence, that kind of force should have been able to conquer an entire star system. "Sir, orbital scans show the Vorthak fleet is being systematically destroyed," So Young reported. "Whatever ships these unknowns have up there, they are more advanced than anything in our databases." The battle on the ground was ending as quickly as it had begun. The mysterious warriors moved through the remaining Vorthak positions with mechanical efficiency. Within 20 minutes of their arrival, all alien forces on the planet had been eliminated. Council forces, this is Commander Jin Ho. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Prepare for evacuation. Commander, we need to talk, Dongwu replied. The Council needs to know who you are and what you want. Captain, what we want is to prevent the Vorthak from spreading their poison across this galaxy. What we are is something your people have forgotten how to be. I do not understand. You will, Captain. Tell your council that the species they call mythical has returned. Tell them that humanity remembers its enemies, and we have come to finish what we started long ago. Before Dongwu could respond, strange ships began appearing in the sky above. They moved silently through the air, collecting the mysterious warriors who had just saved the colony. Within an hour, all traces of the unknown forces had vanished, leaving only the destroyed Vorthak equipment as evidence of what had occurred. As Dongwu prepared his report for Council Command, he struggled to find words that would adequately describe what he had witnessed. How do you explain the impossible? How do you report that myths have become reality? The galaxy would never be the same. General Kyung-ho stood in the command center of the Council's most advanced military station, watching displays that showed a war unlike anything in galactic history. Reports flooded in from every sector of the galaxy, each one more incredible than the last. The Vorthak Empire's greatest offensive had begun 3 weeks ago with unstoppable force. Their bioengineered armies had crushed everything in their path, conquering entire star systems in days. Their planet-cracking weapons had destroyed worlds that had stood for millions of years. The galaxy had faced total extinction. Then the humans had revealed themselves. General, incoming priority transmission from Admiral Hyojin, announced Communications Officer Tae-min. Put her through. The holographic image of Admiral Hyojin appeared, her expression mixing amazement with disbelief. Behind her, tactical displays showed star maps with rapidly changing battle lines. General, I am sending you the latest intelligence reports. You need to see what is happening out there. Kyung-ho reviewed the incoming data with growing astonishment. Every major Vorthak stronghold was under attack simultaneously. The aliens' supposedly impregnable fortress worlds were falling one after another to human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. How is this possible? Kyung-ho asked. Our intelligence estimated the Vorthak had over 10,000 warships. How are the humans defeating such numbers? General, the humans are not just defeating them. They are completely destroying the Vorthak military capability across the entire galaxy. Watch this. The display showed footage from the Battle of Zerion Prime, the Vorthak Empire's most important military base. The planet was surrounded by defensive platforms that could destroy entire fleets. Bioships the size of small moons orbited the world, their organic weapons capable of cracking continents. This footage was recorded 6 hours ago, Hyojin explained. Kyung-ho watched as thousands of human ships emerged from what appeared to be empty space. Their vessels moved with coordination that suggested a single controlling intelligence, but their tactics showed creativity that no computer could match. The human fleet did not charge directly at the Vorthak defenses. Instead, they moved in patterns that made no sense according to standard military doctrine. They seemed to dance through space, avoiding the aliens' weapons while positioning themselves for strikes that bypassed the strongest defensive points. They are not fighting the way anyone expects them to fight, Kyung-ho observed. That is exactly the point, General. The Vorthak have spent thousands of years developing counters to every known military strategy. But the humans fight in ways that no other species has ever considered. The footage showed human weapons that defied explanation, energy beams that curved through space to strike targets behind cover, projectiles that seemed to phase through armor before exploding inside enemy ships, devices that appeared to manipulate gravity itself, crushing Vorthak bioships like they were made of paper. What kind of technology are they using? Our scientists cannot identify any of it, Hyojin replied. The energy signatures do not match anything in our databases. It is as if they developed their entire technological base along completely different principles than the rest of the galaxy. The battle footage continued, showing the systematic destruction of Vorthak forces that had seemed invincible just hours before. What amazed Kyung-ho most was not the advanced weapons, but the way the humans used them. Every shot had purpose. Every movement was calculated. There was no waste, no hesitation, no mercy. General, we have confirmed reports of similar battles in 47 star systems, Hyojin said. The humans are attacking every major Vorthak installation simultaneously. The aliens' entire military structure is collapsing. Have we established any diplomatic contact? Limited contact only. The humans seem focused entirely on destroying the Vorthak threat. They acknowledge our communications but do not engage in extended conversations. Kyung-ho studied the tactical displays, showing human fleet movements across the galaxy. The coordination required for such a massive military operation was beyond anything the Council had ever achieved. It suggested a level of organization and planning that had been in development for centuries. Admiral, what about Vorthak civilian populations? That is one of the most interesting aspects of the human strategy. They are specifically targeting military installations and avoiding civilian areas. In several cases, they have actually evacuated Vorthak non-combatants before destroying military targets. They are showing mercy to their enemies? It appears so, General. The humans seem to distinguish between the Vorthak military machine and individual aliens who are not directly involved in the war. A new alarm sounded in the command center. Communications Officer Taemin looked up from his station with excitement. General, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander. He is requesting to speak with Council leadership directly. Put him through immediately. The holographic display shimmered, then resolved into the image of a figure in advanced armor. The helmet retracted, revealing a human face that looked both familiar and alien. The features were recognizably those described in ancient texts, but there was something in the eyes that spoke of experiences beyond normal understanding. Council leaders, I am Fleet Commander Jin-ho of the Human Defense Corps. We need to talk. Commander Jin-ho, this is General Kyung-ho of the Council Defense Forces. We have many questions. I am sure you do, General, but first you need to understand what you are facing. The Vorthak Empire is not just a military threat. They have developed biological weapons that can eliminate all organic life in the galaxy. We have heard rumors of such weapons. They are not rumors, General. We have been tracking the development of these weapons for over 1,000 years. The Vorthak plan to use them once they control enough territory to ensure their own survival. Why should we believe you? Jin-ho's expression grew grim. Because we are the species that originally drove the Vorthak from this galaxy 3,000 years ago. We know what they are capable of because we have fought them before. The revelation hit Kyung-ho like a physical blow. You are saying that humans did not vanish. You drove the Vorthak away. We drove them away, but we could not destroy them completely. They retreated to the void between galaxies and spent millennia rebuilding their strength. Now they have returned, and we have returned to stop them. Where have you been all this time? Preparing, General. Learning. Developing the tools we would need for this final war. We knew they would come back, and we made sure we would be ready when they did. The implications staggered Kyung-ho. Humanity had not vanished or gone extinct. They had voluntarily left the galaxy to prepare for a war that was always coming. They had spent thousands of years becoming something beyond what they had been before. What happens now? He asked. Now we finish what we started long ago, Jin-ho replied grimly. The war reached its final stage when the human fleet revealed itself in the Vorthak home system. Captain So-young watched from the bridge of her observation vessel as thousands of human ships emerged from concealment around the massive star that the Vorthak Empire called home. She had been assigned to document this final battle for the Council archives. What she witnessed would be remembered as the most decisive military victory in galactic history. Captain, the human fleet is beginning its approach, reported Lieutenant Min-ho from the sensor station. I count over 5,000 vessels of various sizes. So-young studied the tactical displays with amazement. The human fleet moved like a single living organism, each ship perfectly coordinated with all the others. There was no confusion, no hesitation, no wasted motion. Sir, the Vorthak are responding, announced Communications Officer Dong-woo. They are deploying everything they have. The enemy fleet that rose to meet the humans was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Bioships the size of asteroids powered up their organic weapon systems. Swarms of smaller vessels poured out of hidden bases throughout the system. The Vorthak had kept nothing in reserve for this final battle. Lieutenant, what are the numbers? So-young asked. Approximately 15,000 Vorthak vessels, Captain. They outnumber the humans 3-1. So-young had studied every major space battle in recorded history. Numbers like these should have meant certain victory for the Vorthak. No military force had ever overcome such overwhelming odds. Then the humans began to fight. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of military superiority so complete that it redefined what warfare could be. The human ships moved through space like they were dancing, avoiding Vorthak weapons fire that should have been impossible to dodge. Their return fire was devastating. Human weapons struck with surgical precision, targeting the exact weak points in Vorthak bioships that would cause maximum damage. Each shot was calculated for perfect effect. "Captain, look at this," Minho said, highlighting a section of the battle on his display. So Young watched as a single human destroyer engaged 12 Vorthak cruisers simultaneously. The enemy ships surrounded the smaller vessel, firing from all directions. According to every tactical manual ever written, the human ship should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, it flowed between the incoming attacks like liquid mercury. Its weapons fired in seemingly impossible patterns, striking targets that were behind cover or blocked by other ships. Within minutes, all 12 Vorthak vessels were drifting powerless in space. "How are they doing this?" So Young whispered. "Captain, I think they are predicting the enemy movements before they happen," Minho replied. "Watch the patterns." He was right. The human ships moved as if they knew exactly where every Vorthak vessel would be several seconds in the future. They fired at empty space that was suddenly filled with enemy targets. They turned away from attacks before those attacks were even launched. "Sir, incoming transmission from Fleet Commander Jinho," Dongwu announced. "Put him through." Jinho's image appeared on the main screen. Behind him, So Young could see the bridge of his command ship, filled with humans working with mechanical efficiency. "Captain So Young, you are documenting this battle for Council records?" "Yes, Commander. The galaxy needs to understand what is happening here. Then make sure you record this part carefully." On the tactical display, something new was happening. The human fleet was changing formation, arranging itself into patterns that seemed more like art than military strategy. Ships moved into positions that formed geometric shapes across thousands of kilometers of space. "What are they doing?" So Young asked. "Something we have been preparing for 3,000 years, Jinho replied grimly. The human ships began to pulse with synchronized energy. Light flowed between vessels, connecting them in networks of power that spanned the entire fleet. The energy built slowly, growing brighter and more intense until it seemed like the humans had created a constellation of artificial stars. "Captain, energy readings are off the scale," Minho reported with awe in his voice. The Vorthak seemed to sense what was coming. Their bioships began retreating toward their home planet, seeking shelter behind its defensive platforms. But there was nowhere to run from what the humans were preparing. When the weapon fired, it was not a single beam or projectile. It was a wave of energy that washed across the entire star system, like a tide of light. The wave passed through space harmlessly, but when it touched Vorthak biotechnology, the results were devastating. Every Vorthak ship simply stopped working. Their organic systems shut down as if someone had turned off a switch. The massive bioships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia became lifeless hulks drifting in space. "What kind of weapon was that?" So Young asked in amazement. "Something specifically designed to neutralize Vorthak biotechnology," Jinho explained. "We spent centuries studying their systems and developing counters for them." The battle was over. The largest military force in galactic history had been neutralized in less than an hour. The Vorthak Empire that had seemed unstoppable just weeks ago was now completely helpless. But the humans were not finished. Landing ships began descending toward the Vorthak homeworld. So Young watched as human ground forces deployed across the planet's surface with the same devastating efficiency they had shown in space. "Commander, what happens to the Vorthak now?" she asked. "The military leadership will face justice for their crimes against the galaxy," Jinho replied. "The civilian population will be relocated to worlds where they can live peacefully without threatening other species." "You are not going to destroy them?" "Captain, we are not monsters. We fight to protect life, not to eliminate it. The Vorthak Empire dies today, but the Vorthak species will survive under proper supervision." So Young realized she was witnessing not just a military victory, but a display of wisdom and restraint that few species would have shown. The humans could have destroyed their ancient enemies completely, but they chose mercy instead. "Commander, what happens now? Will humans take control of the galaxy?" Jinho was quiet for a long moment before responding. Captain, we never wanted to control anything. We wanted to protect everything. Now that this threat is ended, we can finally rest. As So Young prepared her report for the council, she knew that today marked the end of one age and the beginning of another. The galaxy had been saved by the species it had forgotten, and nothing would ever be the same. 6 months after the end of the Vorthak War, Ambassador Minho stood before the reformed Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall. The chamber had been rebuilt to accommodate new realities, with a special section reserved for human representatives who had once existed only in myth. The galaxy was still adjusting to the truth about humanity's return. Every schoolchild now learned the real history of how humans had sacrificed their place in galactic civilization to prepare for a threat that only they fully understood. Honored members of the council, Minho began, his voice carrying easily across the silent chamber. Today marks the formal establishment of the new galactic order. The changes had been dramatic. The Vorthak Empire was gone, its military leadership imprisoned and its civilian population relocated to supervised colonies, where they could rebuild their society without threatening others. The humans had kept their promise to show mercy even to their ancient enemies. But the most significant change was the presence of humanity itself. They had returned not as conquerors but as protectors who had spent 3 millennia preparing for this moment. 6 months ago, most of you believed humans were creatures of legend, Minho continued. Today, I want to explain why we allowed that belief to continue for so long. The holographic displays around the chamber showed images from human colonies in the void between galaxies. Massive orbital cities housed billions of people who had lived their entire lives preparing for the war against the Vorthak. Generations of humans had been born, lived, and died without ever seeing the galaxy their ancestors had left behind. We did not vanish because we were weak or defeated, Minho explained. We left because we understood something the rest of the galaxy did not. The Vorthak would return, and when they did, they would be stronger than ever. The display showed human research facilities where scientists had spent centuries developing weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter Vorthak biotechnology. Every aspect of human military development had been focused on this single enemy. We spent 3,000 years becoming what we needed to become, Minho said. Not conquerors or rulers, but guardians. Counselor Tae Jin from the Centauri Alliance raised his hand. Ambassador, why did you not contact us earlier? We could have worked together to prepare for the Vorthak return. Minho paused before answering. Honored Counselor, we tried that approach the first time we fought the Vorthak. The results were catastrophic. Billions died because the galaxy was not ready to face such an enemy. The holographic displays showed ancient battle records from the first Vorthak War 3 millennia ago. The images were difficult to watch. Entire species had been wiped out. Worlds had been consumed by Vorthak bioweapons. The galaxy had come within days of total extinction. We learned that some threats are too dangerous to face with conventional methods, Minho continued. The Vorthak had to be defeated completely, and that required weapons and tactics that no civilized society would normally develop. What do you mean? Asked Counselor So Jin from the Trade Federation. The weapons we used to end this war were specifically designed to kill. Not to disable or capture, but to eliminate threats with maximum efficiency. Such weapons should not exist in a peaceful galaxy. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had voluntarily exiled themselves to become something the galaxy needed, but could never accept as neighbors. So what happens now? Asked Counselor Hewan from the agricultural worlds. Now we return to our exile, Minho replied simply. The Vorthak threat is ended, but the weapons and methods we developed to fight them remain. Such things should not exist in your galaxy. You are leaving again? The question came from Counselor Kyung-soo, his voice filled with surprise. Not all of us, Minho answered. Some humans will remain as observers and advisors. We will maintain small research stations in remote systems to watch for future threats. But our main population will return to the void between galaxies. Why? Minho smiled sadly. Because we are no longer the species that left this galaxy 3,000 years ago. We became something else, something necessary but not entirely good. The galaxy needs protectors, but it does not need the kind of warriors we had to become. The displays showed images of human children being trained from birth in combat techniques that would horrify most civilized beings. Schools that taught tactical analysis before basic mathematics. Playgrounds where games were actually military exercises. We created a civilization dedicated entirely to warfare, Minho explained. It was necessary to defeat the Vorthak, but such a society cannot coexist peacefully with normal galactic civilization. Will you ever return permanently? Asked Counselor Jin Wu from the mining consortium. Perhaps, Minho replied. In time, we may be able to remember how to be something other than soldiers. But that will take generations of learning to be peaceful again. The formal treaty signing took place that afternoon. The document established humanity as the official guardians of galactic security, while acknowledging their right to self-exile. Human observation posts would be maintained throughout the galaxy, but the main population would remain in their hidden cities between the stars. As the ceremony concluded, Counselor Dong Hyun approached Minho privately. Ambassador, was it worth it? Spending 3,000 years preparing for this war? Minho looked out through the chamber's great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, human families were preparing to return to the darkness between galaxies, carrying with them the burden of being the galaxy's unseen protectors. Counselor, every species in this galaxy is alive today because we made that choice, he replied. Ask me in another 1,000 years if it was worth it. The next morning, the human fleets began their departure. Most galactic citizens never saw them leave, just as they had never seen them arrive. They faded back into the darkness between stars, becoming myths once again. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was real and they were watching. In the deepest archives of every major world, records were kept of what humans had sacrificed to protect civilized life. Teachers would tell the story to children, ensuring that future generations would remember. The species that had been forgotten had chosen to be forgotten again. But this time it was by choice, not defeat. They had become the guardians in the dark, the protectors who asked for no recognition and wanted no glory. The galaxy was safe because somewhere in the void between stars, humans maintained their eternal watch. And if another threat like the Vorthak ever arose, they would be ready. As the last human ships disappeared into hyperspace, Ambassador Minho looked one final time at the world his people were leaving behind. They had saved the galaxy, but the price was their place in it. It was a price they had willingly paid and would pay again if necessary. The myths were real, and they were watching.